Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'll be talking about how to bounce back from a relapse to porn. So I received this comment on one of my YouTube videos recently. The guy said, "Hey Tom, thanks for this video. Could you make a video on how you should think in the exact moment you choose to make that change after a relapse? A million stuff go through my mind in that moment, and like you said, you're always searching for more." I replied because I wasn't quite sure, so I just asked him some clarification, and then he said, basically, you said you should not be focusing on what we shouldn't do because it creates resistance in the mind and deprivation-based thinking. But in that moment of desire, by making the choice of discomfort, isn't that having some resistance? I don't quite get the difference. Also, I was doing pretty well. I made the wrong choice now, which has completely hit me. How do I now make the solemn decision to no longer go back again? So I feel like there's kind of like two questions here. Like one of them is about, how do you respond to a relapse? Because he said, how should you think in that exact moment you choose to make that change after a relapse? So I'll be talking a bit about that. But then he also kind of asked about, the difference between resistance and the discomfort of choosing, to make that change in your neural pathways. So there's a couple of really interesting things here. I'll start off with the bit about the resistance. So he said, basically you said to not be focusing on what we shouldn't do because it creates resistance in the mind and deprivation-based thinking. But in that moment of desire, by making the choice of discomfort, isn't that having some resistance? I don't quite get the difference. All right, well, this is quite an interesting point, to be honest. It really, really gets into some of the nitty-gritty of the Beyond Compulsion method. And there isn't actually that much I can say here that's going to change someone's neural pathways, because what we would really do for that whole thing is apply fact 1 and fact 2 to change the neural pathways repeatedly, and you'd apply those first two facts over and over and over and over in your mind to really change the thinking. So that's what we would do with a lot of this to kind of get out of the feelings of deprivation. But basically the concept is, so a lot of people, when they're trying to overcome porn addiction, they struggle because they feel like they're giving something up and they feel like they can't watch porn. I was on a call yesterday with a client and I asked him, in what ways have you told yourself in the past that you can't watch porn? And some of them may be things like, I can't watch porn because if I do, I'm going to get erectile dysfunction. I can't watch porn because it hurts my partner in my relationship. I can't watch porn because it makes me feel so shit. It makes me feel ashamed. It makes me feel exhausted. So you tell yourself you can't watch porn, and this creates a lot of resistance because, well, it simply isn't true, because you obviously do have that choice. It's just the thing is, there's very, very, very severe consequences to making that choice. And so when it comes to deprivation-based thinking, well, we need to get out of that loop of feeling like we can't do it, so we can actually feel like we do have a choice and we do have some freedom, and we can start to see that it is a choice to willingly accept temporary discomfort. At this point in time, you might be thinking, well, is it a choice? And the truth is, what we actually say to our clients is without your script, it isn't really a choice, because your neural pathways are just going to keep on going the same way they've gone. That's how the brain kind of works. It's you're going to keep on doing the same thing you do until you have something to sort of come in and intercept and make a change and divert that route that the neural pathways want to go down. And that diversion, making that new sort of way of thinking sort of into your brain, and it's almost like a train going down a track, and if you want to change the direction of that train, it's really gonna have to move. It's gonna have to go in a different direction, and you're gonna have to probably press some buttons in the train, or I don't know how to control the train, but you get the point, right? You're gonna have to take some real action here if you want to change your neural pathways. And so it's in that moment, what we're doing is we're doing a bit of work and we're being proactive and we're attacking. And that's where a client would use their script and go, okay, I'm choosing this temporary discomfort. And that is so different. Choosing the temporary discomfort is so incredibly different from being one of these people online who's on a no-fap streak and going, oh, this is so hard, this is so difficult. I can't watch porn because I'm trying to do no-fap. And honestly, that's where I was for 10 years. It's being one of these random guys on the internet trying to do no-fap streaks and just feeling shit all the time, because it does feel shit when you don't know how to do it properly. Whereas when you can see that what you're doing is a choice and you can think through that choice rationally and it serves you to do so, then you're like, all right, give me some discomfort. Like, I want to change my neural pathways. Like, bring it on. You know, like the whole mentality around it completely shifts when you've had some quite thorough training on this stuff and you know how to think in ways that really empower you and make you feel like you're doing this for yourself rather than for a nofap streak or for your relationship or for your ex. Like, geez, like you definitely don't want to be, you know, trying to overcome porn addiction just for your ex. Like, you want to do all this stuff for yourself. And you got to see that those neural pathways are wired in a certain way due to the repetition of engaging in the behavior all these times in the past. So now it's like the default is to relapse. Like, get that into your mind. The default is to relapse. So sitting down and just like scrolling on social media or like going to the gym or like taking a walk or having a cold shower, like none of those things is going to help you at all because you're not making that choice to experience the temporary discomfort to change your neural pathways, which is what the script very specifically does. And the script is a lot more in-depth really than what I've said today. But like, you're not really doing anything. You're just being passive and trying to let the time pass on by so you get on a longer nofap streak. But that isn't going to rewire the brain. Like, to rewire the brain, it requires getting very proactive and getting into those neural pathways, getting connected to the desire, thinking through the choice in this rational way, getting the repetitions in, choosing the discomfort from this place of bring it on rather than like, oh my God, I have to like quit porn. Like, I have to do this thing, because you just don't. Like, you don't have to stop watching porn. Like, you're here because you probably want to, but you don't have to do that. It's your choice. Like, you're the one who gets to decide for yourself. With that being said though, it's very easy for me to say this is your choice, but like, if I didn't have a script, I know like the default for me would be to watch porn. So it's your choice when you have a script, but if you don't have a script, then it definitely may not feel like a choice because of the repetition of wiring your brain in a certain way, which leads to these really strong desires. And if you don't know how to deal with that desire, then, you know, it's only really a matter of time until the next relapse. Hopefully that makes some sense, but the key thing for anyone listening to this is to understand that you do need some way of dealing with those desires very proactively, attacking them, framing it in a way that it is a choice rather than it's something you like are forced into doing. And that's how you're going to get rid of that resistance. And when you really get this stuff, you'll see that there's not going to be that really strong resistance. There will be discomfort, don't get me wrong, but discomfort's very different to resistance. It's like, in fact, you know what? I've got a really good way of explaining this. We had a client message in school recently. He said, a fish that is alive always swims against the flow of water, whilst one that is dead floats in the water and is carried downstream. I realised that the Beyond Compulsion method is incredibly effective and powerful, and it translates to other aspects of life. And he went on to say a lot more, but this point about the fish was really good, because here's the thing with resistance. It's a little bit like, you know, the tide is just like, you know, pulling you away from where you want to be. Maybe that's resistance, okay? And you can let that happen to you. You know, you can consent to that, or you can actually maybe like stand up in the water. Let's say, you know, the tide isn't that strong. You just stand up in this water and you could literally just like walk out of all of that and like literally be fine, like be dry. So you're alive and you've just gone and got out of this water and you've taken some action. But if you don't do anything, the water's going to carry you downstream. It's like you are going to end up just going in the way of the water. But to like actually make a change in your life, you basically have to like step out of that entirely. And when you do that and you go, actually, this is a choice, I don't have to get carried downstream anymore, you're like, shit, this is all right. Whereas what the people with nofap are doing is like they're still walking in the water, they're just walking against the tide. So that's just like more and more resistance. You just feel shit. And that's why people can get to like loads and loads of days of nofap but still feel terrible, because they're still in the water, they're still in the addiction. You're not free, you're still in it. You just like going against the resistance and creating more of it. Like you're just going against the tide. You don't have to do that. You can just get out of the water altogether. Like, it's when you realize it's seriously like a choice. Like, you don't have to do this thing, and you know, you actually rewire the brain with a script, then that is possible for you. That might be a really bad analogy, Let's see what people reply to it. Let me know in the comments. Is that a bad analogy? I don't know. Maybe it is. Okay, now we're going to get into the second bit of this comment. So, he talked a bit about the response after relapsing. How do you like bounce back from it, sort of thing? How do you, think in a different way after relapsing? I'm going to give a bit of a different approach to that one. I think the problem if you relapse is that you're still in an addiction. And so you want to document that. You want to write down how it makes you feel. You want to write down about the consequences. You basically want to write a remember letter, right? We've talked about remember letters a lot on here. If you don't know what one is, then again, go click the link in the description. You can read like over 30 remember letters by different clients. So you want to write one of those. That would be a really, really good starting place, because we don't want to go, oh, this is fine. It's just one time. Oh, let's be all compassionate to ourselves. Instead, we want to like face it head on and be like, yeah, that was horrible. I feel like shit. Like, I feel lethargic. I feel tired. I feel weak. I'm so sick of this. Like, you want to really install in your brain how bad the consequences of relapsing are, rather than doing what most people on the internet will tell you to do, which is try and like downplay them and just be like, oh, everyone watches porn, it's normal, it's fine, when really it's like destroying your life. So you want to get really serious with the consequences. But other than that, you don't want to be relying on the motivation of relapsing to keep you good long term, because there will be a time, as I say, where you have these really strong desires, because that is the default at this point in time, and that's how the neural pathways are wired. So you're going to have these desires at some point. That may be, in a few days, it may be in a few weeks, it may be in a few months, it may be right away, probably right away. But you're going to have these kind of desires. You're going to want to get out of that temporary discomfort that you've created for yourself by choosing to engage. And so the real question isn't like, how do I deal with relapsing? It's how do I stop relapsing for good? But the only way to do that is to learn a way of getting back in the present moment by moment, and think through the choice. Because if I ask you this question, right now, as I ask you this, do you have a choice about your decisions? Like, right now in this moment, like, you'd probably say, yeah, I do have like some choice, right? If I ask you, do you have a choice about your decisions in 1 week's time? You're probably going to be like, well, right now, I don't, because you can't control what you do in a week's time right now in this moment, but you can control what you do right now in this moment. And this is critical, because everything we teach is about getting people's focus back into the present moment, pinning it back into the right now at this moment. And anything focused on like motivation or trying to stay stopped for good or whatever is kind of getting us away from the moment of compulsive desire, because it's in those moments of compulsive desire that you have that opportunity to actually rewire the brain, think through the choice. You just do that repeatedly, moment by moment, over and over and over, and you're going to be fine. So I would just try to get someone's attention pulled back into just like right now, this moment, what am I choosing to do and why, rather than after relapse thinking about, okay, this is it now, I'm never going to do this thing again, because let's be honest, everyone's told themselves that 100 times. Like when I was in the NoFap days, I tell myself after every relapse, that's the last time, never going to do it again. This is it now. I remember even looking at some, progressively novel sexual content and telling myself at the time, if I look at the more like fucked up stuff, that's going to motivate me to never do it again. And it never worked. It was just junky thinking. It was all just bullshit, because it's so far away from the present moment, and your choice, your power, your choice, it's here right now. That's where it can only ever be, because you can't control your choices in the future right now at this moment. Hopefully this makes some sense. I've talked about a lot of concepts which are really sort of packed and condensed down into a script in this video. This script does require a lot of training, 2.5 hours of video content with a lot of quizzes in between, and then also a one-on-one call with me and Mary to ensure that the concepts really do make sense. So if you would like to learn more about the Beyond Compulsion method, you'd like to get a script, you'd like to actually get proactive and start rewiring the brain so you can bring everything back into the present moment and make that choice in those moments of compulsive desire to actually rewire those neural pathways, feel free to click on the link below where you can schedule a call with myself and explore how we can help you. Thank you so much. Hopefully this does help, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.